It's the weekend here for the Penn State football team. They face Indiana at noon on Saturday. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. If you're watching this on Saturday, here are the 5 things you need to watch for today. But if you're watching this, when it comes out on Friday, we've got a weekend for you. The Penn State football tailgate show coming up at 9 a.m. But before that, we're going to get to the things I've found this week when looking at the Penn State football team. And, of course, Indiana matching up with the Nittany Lions. How is all this going to go? Where are the strengths? Where are the weaknesses? And believe it or not, it's not all weaknesses for Penn State. I know that that's kind of the state of the team right now. But nobody's expecting this team to win. Again. But what's going to happen? How's it going to happen? How are these things going to play out? And how does Penn State fight and compete in this game? That's what we're going to be looking at today in our 5 things to watch for. So if you're new to the channel, I'm Thomas Frank Carr. I'm the film analyst and the host here for the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. Let's get into our 5 things. Here's number 5.
Number 5.
So the first thing is, and hear me out on this, the Wildcat package. I'm not going to call it Lion Cat. Terry Smith said that they call the Liam Clifford package the Lion Cat. I think Thundercat is a way better name because it's an option, ground and pound. It would be great if they had a guy who could break tackles there. Then Thundercat would be perfect, but SWAT Cat, I don't know. If you're born in the 90s, these are just ripping. You love these references. Anyway, the option position with Liam Clifford is not bad in its concept. In its execution, I've been very upset about that. But let's rewind to the Iowa game so I can give you my reasons why I think using it this week is not a bad idea. So this is not all tied to Jackson Smollett coming into the game as the option quarterback, but a lot of it is. Several explosive plays. In the game against Iowa, Katron Allen had 71 yards and a touchdown on option plays. So when there was an option and the quarterback had the ability to keep the ball, it took some of the heat off of the offensive line and gave Katron Allen some room to run. So 71 yards and a touchdown is nothing to sneeze at. And this is a similar defense in its personnel makeup. Not a big defensive line, not overly massive, not strong at the point of attack, not guys that are going to necessarily play in the NFL as nose tackles like Ohio State had. And the talent level is good. I don't want to make it sound like Penn State's going to be able to run the ball a lot, but I do think there's an opportunity to run the ball if you can take some of the heat off the offensive line, and that's what the option game does. So to explain why Penn State and Andy Kotelnicki are so desperate to get that into the game, it's because it slows down the pursuit on the backside of the play. So the backside safety, who's an extra player in the run fit, and then the will linebacker or just a backside linebacker, maybe it's a nickel corner, somebody like that, who has to fill a gap on the backside of the run. They have to account for the option. They have to account for the quarterback. And if Penn State, pulls a player like Trevor Pena or Andrew Rapplier into motion, going the opposite way of the run, that causes hesitation. That hesitation causes better blocking angles and bigger gaps up front for the running back to run through. Without it, you have to just beat the opponent straight up. And this is the part about offensive line play that I think a lot of people misunderstand. It is not easy to just throw a dude out the club. Guys like Venga Ioane can do it. It's not every single play, and it's not on every single snap. You need to give any offensive line any advantage you can. And this offensive line specifically, that they need an advantage with what they have going on up front. So the difference is, what you'd like to have is a passing concept to really threaten the defense and break it wide open on these option plays. But here's the secret. They didn't have one against Iowa. They never ran. I know they had a quarterback out there. Jackson Smollett was the quarterback taking the handoff. He had a pitch to Trevor Pena for 9 yards. He didn't necessarily get a ton of rushing yardage, but it created the opportunity for some explosive runs. What's the difference between a quarterback who has no options to throw and Liam Clifford, who has no options to throw? I'm actually I'm pretty upset that 34-2 jet dumbass is something they used with Clifford and not with Jackson Smollett. And obviously, Smollett wasn't available, and they probably iterated the package over time. But if you're going to put this stuff in, the actual threat of the run, of the option, is a good idea. It's a sound plan. It's a sound process. Not everything they decide to do is stupid. despite the fact that it's a bad season. The team is having problems, but not every idea we have to just throw out. This is one that I think if they use it correctly and not on an option pass for the quarterback rolling 30 yards to his right, I think this could help them this week if they're able to use it correctly and actually have Clifford run the football. Because, 4'4" athlete with the ball in his hands, you could do worse.
Number 4.
So this one's cut and paste from every single week for Penn State football, and that's if they stop the run, they're in the ball game. So there's not a whole lot here to say other than like last week it was a little bit better against Ohio State. Not good enough. They gave over 130 yards to Bo Jackson on the ground. They gave up rush lanes, things like that. There is some critical weaknesses in this defensive front and the style, but they played better. And the film showed that the defensive tackles were doing a better job against double teams. Better doesn't mean elite. It just means they're not giving up wide open holes or being pushed 2 or 3 gaps to the right or left on double team blocks. So is that a function of Ohio State's offensive line not being as good? Maybe. It's also a function of Indiana's offensive line probably not being as good either. Now, they have some really good elements. I think the left tackle and the right tackle specifically are really good run blockers. Across the board, I'm not sure that they're going to generate the same push as maybe an Iowa could. Their guards are a little bit weaker. But it's a really good, again, these are all shades of gray, right? It's a good offensive line, good enough that they're one of the top 2 teams in the country. But if there's an inefficiency in this offense, it's their rushing attack. They do it by just absolute merciless, relentless running. Roman Hemby used to be at Maryland. He's a good runner, physical, downhill, not necessarily somebody who's going to break a ton of explosive plays or be super elusive, but elusive enough. Everything is just enough in this run game. And if Penn State's making incremental changes to get better at stopping the run, is this the week they can make it a ball game? That's what I'm curious to find out in this particular game. It's going to decide a lot. So it's number 4 on the list, but I think in terms of priority, it's probably number 1. But it is number 1 every single week. So it turns into that background hum of the Penn State's got to stop the run. And I would say they're even, not that they didn't know how to use him, but it's a little more effective this week with Dom DeLuca and how they've been using him in his package. Hopefully you get to see Alex Tash more in this game, and he has a slightly larger role because I thought he did some good things. It's got to be a little bit more confident in the way he's playing. But smidgen of hope here. And by the way, seeing as we got a couple extra seconds here, please like the video, subscribe here to the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel, follow our stuff, make sure you watch our press conferences and more. We got a ton of stuff coming down the stretch for Penn State football, and you're going to get out of your schedule and out of your routine because the holidays are coming up, right? Thanksgiving is just around the corner, so make sure you subscribe and enable notifications so you know when we hit the breaking news, because of course there's going to be breaking news. Penn State's not going to be leaderless forever. They're going to get a new head coach. Okay, so coming up next, we have number 3.
Have you heard of Way Fruit Farm? It's this great farm market bakery and cafe. You can shop with them either at their farm in Port Matilda or downtown State College.
No way.
Yes, Way Fruit Farm. They have all sorts of seasonal fruits and veggies.
Way cool.
No, Way Fruit Farm. But anyway, you should visit their bakery and cafe. They serve amazing food all day.
Way.
Fruit Farm.
Number 3.
So after a week off of this conversation, the QB spy conversation is absolutely back. Fernando Mendoza, I've struggled with, is he a good runner? Is he just a capable runner? I don't think he's as athletic as his brother, just based on some of the highlights and some of the numbers I've seen. But he's absolutely effective and capable of getting first downs, and that's the backbreaker here. Is he has 12 first downs scrambling this year. That's third in the Big Ten. He's got 155 scrambling yards this year. He might get a bunch this week if Penn State cannot contain their rush lanes. I do think that there is a lag in our conversation about the QB spy because they haven't needed it, especially last week against Ohio State. They didn't need it. They had a bye week to prepare. We saw a little bit of the third down plan with Keon Wiley as the spy slash cleanup man, where if they're going to run a pressure, they're going to run it so that he can be the guy cleaning up and running in space as their most athletic linebacker that isn't Alex Tash, isn't a young player. And I think maybe generally overall, and if you consider strength as part of athleticism, he's probably their best athlete at linebacker. So is this the week we see them actually spy the quarterback on third down? They wanted to rush and cage rush before, meaning you use the defensive line to keep the quarterback in the pocket, right? So you're not actually going all out to get a sack. You're going all out to compress the pocket, make the quarterback uncomfortable, and then the alarm in his head goes off of, I need to get rid of the football, I need to get rid of the football, and then they start to make mistakes. That didn't work because they did not maintain rush discipline. For one reason or another, players were pushed out of position. They went inside and they didn't get back outside on some of their rushes, or they were, directed away from their gap in the middle of the defense to open up rushing lanes up the middle, let alone, and not to mention, the quarterback run game. All those things are on the table with Indiana. They'll run the quarterback, although 1.9 yards per carry from Mendoza isn't great as a designed runner. So this is going to be about the quarterback spy situation. And I want to head you off at the pass. Yes, I'd love to see Chaz Coleman be that guy. They need to get pass rush, though. They do need to actually get to the quarterback to flush him out of the pocket for somebody to go chase him down. And right now, Coleman's the only player getting pressure. Last week, he got a quarterback hit on 20% of his rushes. Now, that's just twice, but in 10 attempts, that's pretty good. Like, he won and got to the quarterback to get a hit on the quarterback twice, and Penn State didn't have a whole lot of third downs to put him in the game anyway. So he's very effective again at getting to the quarterback. They have been using him. The thing I've been happy about, they have been moving him around and allowing him to get some better one-on-one matchups, especially against centers. If they can get him against running backs, I think that's, given the Abdul Carter treatment. But then, again, we have to have the conversation about allocation of resources and where are you putting players and how are you using them. That is going to be a big thing for them, is how they get pressure, because you can't let this quarterback sit back there forever. He is lethally effective at finding open receivers, both in the RPO game and the standard dropback passing game. He's just a good quarterback. He might be he might be the most dangerous quarterback they've seen this year, and that's saying something, because Julian Sayin was playing an elite level of football. I mentioned those two pressures from Chaz Coleman. I believe one of them, Sayin hit a dime for an explosive play with Coleman falling on top of him as he threw the ball. So that's the hard part right here, is that they're going to see a really good quarterback, and they need to figure out a way to stop him from hurting them, because he can hurt them in all of the ways you think that a quarterback can hurt the Penn State defense, and that's going to be, an added layer of difficulty. By the way, if you want to read the full thing, get all the details, because there's numbers that, I don't want to overload you. It's easier to read numbers than it is to hear me talk about them, because then you just you zone out, right? It's too hard to listen to 14% of this and 13% of that, and I do my best to explain it, but go to BlueWhiteIllustrated.com. I'll put the link in the video as well, so you can go read the full 5 things to watch for. And of course, you can go read the base articles, the offensive and defensive preview, where these numbers come from. I try to distill all the stuff I've learned into just 5 things, which still might be a lot to watch for in a game, but I think it can give you a good roadmap for offense and defense. So let's get to the top 2.
Number 2.
So this defense, I've been talking about this all week. I asked Terry Smith about this on Wednesday. Is there a comparison to be drawn from the Manny Diaz defense, and having an understanding of how that defense works? Does that help you get an advantage on this particular week? Because it is an advantage if you know how to attack a defense that wants to attack, because they're giving something up when they throw bodies at the quarterback. If you're penetrating and aggressively going to the other side of the line of scrimmage, if you're run blitzing all the time, if you're pass blitzing all the time, you are leaving grass uncovered. And they do a good job of taking away predicted areas with their zone dropping and their kind of chaotic dropping defensive linemen into coverage. You can make a team look, you can embarrass a team by having a receiver and a defensive end be matched up in coverage, and you go, how in the world can you do that? And the answer is, well, we knew they were going to do that, so we forced them into this bad matchup. It is harder to do that when they are so good at getting pressure. So here are the chaos plays, as I'm calling them, for Indiana. Here are the metrics. And I included, by the way, Manny Diaz at Duke into this. So, overall blitz rate in the Big Ten plus Duke, first. Number of stunts, first. Pass blitz at 50%, first in the Big Ten. Simulated pressure, first. Pass stunts, first. Run blitz, fourth. I got to put it up again because there's too many numbers. This is crazy. Run stunts, meaning you're switching gaps on run plays, kind of like a pass play, first. That leads to unblocked pressures. They have 47 unblocked pressures this year, meaning a guy running free at the quarterback with no blocker. That's the most in the Big Ten by 12. They're first in that as well. So, Penn State's got a quarterback in his third start, and thank God he's at home. So at least there isn't crowd noise to go on top of this. This is a defense built on chaos and destruction. So, mitigating his exposure to that, but also not hiding him is going to be the answer. And that's that's a razor blade you're walking on. You have to figure out how to do that. You're walking on a bed of nails. No matter how you're going to do this, it's painful. So that is going to be the task this week, because what you cannot do, and what they're very good at doing, like I said, is they're gonna blitz you and drop guys into coverage in the expected windows of where you have to throw the ball based on the time you have to throw the ball. So they know they're going to get pressure, and there's only so many places a receiver can run to in time to then give the quarterback an open window, and they love to jump those. They are hyper aggressive in coverage, at jumping routes, being aggressive on underneath passes. This, again, is kind of the Manny Diaz style. They're not going to defend every blade of grass. They're going to make sure that they're targeting the areas they know the ball is going to go to, and they're going to be there, and you can suffocate an offense that way. So don't dink and dunk. Don't think you're going to throw a bunch of screens. Maybe screens work in this game. Honestly, screens might work in this game. But don't think you're going to quick game, or you're going to hot route, or you're going to slant your way out of this, because they are going to take those away. And Grunkmeyer, by the way, despite some of the situations he's been put in, has been good under pressure. He's completed 62% of his passes, which is middle of the road in the Big Ten out of 21 quarterbacks, because he hasn't had enough attempts to be in the starting unit. So he's been good for a guy with 2 career starts. So that's it's encouraging, but this is going to be the hardest test, because believe it or not, Ohio State didn't come after the quarterback nearly this much. Their blitzes were so much more traditional because they're used to going up against those are NFL-style blitzes where you can't be as aggressive, because quarterbacks, if you do that, will absolutely tear you apart finding the open zones. And that gets to number 1.
Number 1.
Explosive plays are going to be the key to this game, and it's very simple. If Indiana gets explosive plays, it's a blowout. If Penn State gets explosive plays, it's a ball game. That's the factor in this game. So when you blitz, everything we just described about Indiana, you must play a certain degree of coverages. You limit yourself in what you can play on the back end, which is why defenses they're determined. Their style and their personality are determined by front or coverage a lot of times, because you can't do both. You can't be exotic up front and exotic in the back end. You don't have enough bodies to do that. So they run an overwhelming percent of cover 3, meaning 3 deep players in a soft zone, keeping a lid on all of these things. But what that leaves you is a lot of green grass. And so explosive plays for the Penn State passing attack, throwing the ball down the field, has to be a part of the game, because that's the part they're giving you. And you do have to eventually take what the defense is giving you, even if it is explosive plays. Throwing 15 yards down the field, throwing, not even 20 yards down the field, just in a catch-and-run opportunity for your receivers. And this is where Indiana has made their bones as an offense, is getting those particular plays. So we've talked about the RPO passing attack for Indiana, and I can't get into all of that here because we're running out of time. But what I want you to do is go and read about their RPO passing attack. I'll give you the Cliff Notes version here. Omar Cooper Jr. is... this is always the problem, is you don't want to go too crazy, but he is as close to Deebo Samuel. He's got a little Deebo Samuel in him. He's a tackle breaker. He's physical. They use him as a run blocker. They use him basically like a defense, like a tight end in the run game. 6 foot, 206 pounds. He might be a little bit smaller than that, but that's his listed weight. He's a physical dude. So if he gets out on the perimeter, because Indiana, The quarterback run, they're first in the Big Ten in total runs since entering Big Ten play. They want you to add a safety in the box. They want you to react down to the run game so they can throw their RPOs over your head. And this is where they're most dangerous. 14 broken tackles on RPOs is most in the Power 4 for Omar Cooper Jr. He's their slot receiver. He's number 3. He's a thick, physical, running back style receiver. He has the most broken tackles and the most yards on RPOs. So if he gets one-on-one against Zion Tracy or a safety or even one of the outside corners and he breaks a tackle, and they struggle to tackle this year, it is an explosive play that's going to happen. They don't throw the ball down the field to get their explosive plays. They get their explosive plays the way that RPOs are used their best, because a lot of times people use RPOs, coaches use RPOs as a cheat to get some easy yards and an easy completion for the quarterback, but it's not really that dangerous. Teams that do it right create one-on-one opportunities with tons of green grass. If you break a tackle, the safety is 15, 20 yards away, and suddenly you have an explosive play in one interaction with a quarterback that is making an easy read, and if he throws it accurately on time in rhythm with that lead that you want, throwing out in front of the receiver, you get explosive plays, and they are so dangerous at this. So if Penn State plays cover 1, meaning man coverage, they have to tackle. They cannot allow yards after contact. The Indiana is like top 3 in the Big Ten in yards after contact, and the only reason they don't have more is because they actually only use RPOs like 26% of the time, which is 3rd in the Big Ten, not first the way it feels like. They're just so effective with it that it feels like they are the preeminent RPO team in college football. So those are your 5 things to watch for. If you want more information, more conversation about Penn State football, we'll be diving deeper into these thoughts and ideas in a more expanded way on the Penn State Football Tailgate Show. That's coming up tomorrow at 9 a.m., Saturday at 9 a.m. If you're watching this on Saturday, it's happening at 9 a.m. You can watch it on replay here on the Blue White Illustrated YouTube channel. I'm Thomas Frank Carr. We'll talk to you after Penn State and Indiana on the postgame show as well. See you then.